12 hours. An enormous amount of energy is stored in this ocean. The sun heats up and temperatures change on different spots in the ocean. The air mass is hot in some places and absorbs more humidity than the colder places. With the higher humidity, the air becomes heavier. This can be measured with a barometer. We can measure a high pressure where this humid and relatively heavy air mass is located. But like the hot steam wants to get out of a boiling kettle of water, the pressure also seeks away from the high pressure area. This airflow is what we have here. It creates the waves at the water. It is the wind. The wind is simply an airflow away from a center of high pressure. It is as simple as that. In the cooler places, low pressures will do the opposite. The airflow will go towards the center of the low. But now something else. Now I begin to see it. The place where I'm going. It is right there, still in a hazy morning light, and quite shaky when I look through the camera's lens because of the long distance. This is an island, or actually a group of islands, an atoll. Tetiaroa is the name, just here due north of Tahiti. We fly over the atoll, which consists of the lagoon, surrounded by the fringing reef upon which 12 islands are located, 12 coral islands. As we continue over the lagoon to make ready for the landing, we see the islands, the reef, the lagoon. What a beautiful sight. And then the airstrip is visible down there, cut out on the island between all the coconut trees. It must be a short airstrip. None of these islands are very big. Now, after 15 minutes of flying, we are going down on Tetiaroa. The runway is made of coral and is rough, not like the big international airports. So here we are on the Tetiaroa Atoll. And what is so special about this place? It is supposed to be one of the most unspoiled, nature-wise atolls in the whole world. Nature has not been tamed here. This is why it is so special. And this is what I want to see today. The question is, of course, what is nature and what is to destroy nature? Way, way back in history, long before human beings came to this part of the earth, this island was a volcano. It was barren with newly formed lava and rocks all over. During hundreds of thousands of years since then, the island sank into the water, slowly, maybe 1 millimeter per year or even slower. And corals growing on the coastal strip grew up as the island sank down. This was how the ring-formed atoll was created. These islands are the only ones in the world which are really created by life itself. The corals have grown upon itself, leaving the old and dead coral below as foundation for new life. And as the millennium went on, while the island was sinking, life arrived in many forms. Birds would take a rest on this barren island and leave behind the seed of a miki-miki bush from some other coral island, so the miki-miki bush would start growing. The swells would wash a coconut upon the island, and eventually coconuts would spread around on the island. The current would drag fish eggs from another lagoon out into the ocean. Some, maybe only a few of those eggs, would enter the Tetiaroa lagoon with the water from the breakers, and fish would start their life here. Micro and macro algae would as well arrive with the ocean currents, and life would count more species again. Later, some of the birds would take advantage of the fact that there was now fish in the lagoon. They would settle on these islands instead of just using the place as a resting site. More vegetation, more animals, more insects, more fish. So did nature destroy itself by bringing more and more species to the place? Of course not. It just became richer and more differentiated. Then one day, on the great historical watch only a second ago, man arrived. Maybe it was a people from Tahiti who had been out fishing and were drifting away with the current, or maybe some had been on the top of Tahiti and had seen the atoll in the distant horizon. We don't know who the first were. We only know that they arrived, and we even know that they settled here because their fish hooks and monuments have been found on the different coral islands. Man brought further species to the place. Taro swamps were developed in the center of one of the islands. The taro is a root and very nutritious. Polynesians brought it to all the islands. Breadfruit trees were maybe planted then. Rats arrived on the canoes and populated the islands. Was nature now being destroyed? Or were all these species just further development of the life of the atoll? Not very often, but still at times, hurricanes would flood the islands with huge waves. The wind would destroy what the waves left back. Coconut trees would break, die. The birds would flee or drown. Thousands of coral fish would be flushed out of the calm lagoon with the waves, and they would never return. Was nature destroying itself every time? While crossing the lagoon in a small boat for tourists, I discuss all this with myself. What is nature? And what is it to destroy or preserve it today in year number 2000 after we began to count them? Then we land on the bird island, as it is called. This is an island with birds, thousands and thousands of birds. They don't know me, they look at me as an intruder. I have no intention of doing them any harm, but as I get closer to the birds, they get very angry at me and try to chase me away. Why? I ask myself. At the Galapagos Islands, you can go close to the birds and look. They won't even notice you being there. On another atoll, it was exactly the same. I could go close, so close that I could have touched these birds, and they did not bother at all. Is it the bird's nature to defend against any other creature? It can't be, since I have experienced the opposite several times. But these white terns are really aggressive. I put up my tripod and camera so as to get some good shots of the birds. Especially one of these birds is very, very angry and dives at me, leaving only centimeters between my head and its claw. These birds are the proud flyers we have met so often on the Marco Polo, when sailing far, far away from any coast. They can fly unimaginable distances. They can sleep in the air. They can dive and swim and search for food in the waves. They can communicate, and first and foremost, they are masters of flying, gliding, using a minimum of their own power to keep flying, gliding. Something must be wrong here, since they are so angry with me. I have not done anything wrong to them. Somebody else must have insulted these birds and teased them and maltreated them, picked up their eggs or their chicks, I don't know. This black seagull is not happy at all, but it can't leave its nest because of the eggs. Some of the people from the boat were really chased away. They went ashore as I did, but the feeling of being so unwelcome made them go away again. They went out to the boat and stayed there. They preferred not to bother the birds. I understand them, and had I not had the camera, I think I would have done the same. A little later, we leave the island in the boat. I continue thinking about the place. The word that comes to the surface all the time is unspoiled. What is unspoiled nature, they say? Okay, but where's the fish? Looking in the lagoon, I see no fish. Where is it? I've been sailing in many lagoons in the Pacific, and though there's always more fish on the reef than anywhere else, I have seen fish in the lagoon everywhere. friendly lagoon sharks as those in Mangareva, blue parrotfish as in Palmerston Island, big black manta devil fish as in Kamaka, mahi-mahi as outside Raivabe. So I asked myself, where's the fish? On most of the islands there are many coconut trees. They have been planted by the different owners in an effort to get an income. People were employed to work the copra, and the copra was then sold. It was pure business and made an income for many families. When the Europeans arrived in Polynesia and discovered island after island, they found people all over the place. The first European to see Tejaroa was none but Captain Bligh from His Majesty's armed vessel Bounty. As a result of all the quarrel on this ship, some crew members had deserted, and Captain Bligh was told that they were to be found at Tetuaroa. Bligh visited the island in January 1789, few months before the infamous mutiny. At that time, Tetuaroa was used as a pleasure resort for the royal family of Tahiti, the Pomare family. It is said that they used to bring their young princesses to the island to fatten before marriage, and to get light skin under the shade of the big 2 trees on the island. The Pomare family ruled Tahiti and the other islands during the last century. However, when the French government declared Tahiti and the rest of today's French Polynesia as a French protectorate, the king lost not only his national sovereignty, but also to a great extent his morale and pride. The last king drank himself to death, closing the chapter of local autonomy efficiently. Later, in 1904, the Pomare family were in debt to their dentist, who also happened to be the British consul in Papeete. There was no money to pay for the dentist's bill, so the island was given to the dentist as a compensation. The dentist and consul, Mr. Williams, actually moved to the island. On one of the islands he built a small village. Still today there are many houses left from that time, well-built and solid houses. Williams also planted many coconut trees on the islands to give the atoll its own economy. Wherever we go, we see coconut trees. Here, as everywhere else in the Pacific, the people go to the top of the coconut tree to get the green nut and drink the coconut milk inside, always cool and tasty.
C'est bon?
Ouais. Para dar o corão.
Unfortunately, a rain squall forces a man to go down. It is too dangerous to be up there when it rains and the wind is strong. Back to the dentist's island, leaving his old village, I try to cross the island. It is completely covered with bush and actually not very easy to penetrate. Some people say that a coral island is not fertile. That may be true if we compare with the most fertile plots of land around the world. But what is it I can see here? Isn't this growth and fertility? There are many varieties of grasses, bush, and trees. Somehow this island must be productive. In terms of vegetation, it definitely is. When the dentist planted the coconut trees, did he then disturb nature? In a sense, he did, of course. He changed the environment from the savage coral island to a neatly uplined plantation. But I keep asking myself, should I regard this as a destruction of Mother Nature? In that case, how should we regard all the other places in the world where man has changed nature? The dentist did not build a motorway or a big five-star hotel or an airport. He made a coconut plantation. I can't persuade myself to think that this destroyed anything. As we come further into the island, I see the palms all over and an opening between them. This must be the other side of the island. But it is not. This is a rather big lake with brackish water. Quite interesting sight and not very common on the coral islands. I can't tell you what kind of life there is in this lake. It just doesn't look very much as if there's a lot of life. I wonder if it would be possible to use this lake for any production of some kind. But then, would that be to spoil the unspoiled island? I choose to return again the same way. I follow my own track through the bush and the old dentist village now abandoned. At the beach, I can see the holes in the sand made by big crabs. The crabs hide down there or somewhere else, but other crabs are visible. The hermit crabs, look once. They live in thousands on all these islands. The crab finds the shell of a snail or a conch and uses it for protection. It grows inside it, and then, when the shell is getting too small, it simply leaves and finds a new home. Some of them live in coconut shells and get very big. This is nature. Look at the breakers out there. They would destroy everything did they hit a low-lying island like this one. The reef is a protection of the nature in the lagoon. The wild growing miki-miki bush and the man-made coconut plantations are all protected by the reef. And the people living here take advantage of the reef. They live here, they do not have to fear the ocean. This piece of nature again shifted hands in 1966. The dentist was dead and it was now owned by his stepdaughter. She sold the island to Marlon Brando, an American film star. Mr. Brando had been on Tahiti to record the Bounty Mutiny. Since then, Mr. Brando has owned the island. A small hotel is now operating on one of the islands. The guests live in bungalows or A-frame huts, mostly built with local materials. This is not a luxury hotel, but rather a place where the guests are advised to enjoy the nature around them. It is Marlon Brando who has decided that the island should continue to be unspoiled in the sense that we have seen it. The tourists are coming in, as I did today, with plane from Papeete or with boat. They will get lodged in one of the bungalows and then it is up to the individual to enjoy the sun, the beach, the water. I think I understand Mr. Brando. He could have a Hotel Hilton or Hyatt Regency on this island. It could have been flooded with tourists. Definitely, he could have made business here. But he chose not to. He chose to save the island, keep it unspoiled. There's a small power plant which provides power to the place in the morning and the evening. There's a workshop where equipment can be repaired and taken care of. He has some big machines to do the harder work. The Tetiaroa Atoll is beautiful, no question. Today, it is a sort of mixture between the coconut plantation of the former owners and Marlon Brando's idea of not touching anything. Sure, there's a lot of life here. But I am also sure that there could be much more life. More fish, more plants, more nature, more to look at, more to admire. The atoll is a biological world of its own. It deserves an example like this. So many atolls in the world have been blown up into pieces, subjected to harbor projects which have damaged the marine life for years to come, or transformed into tourist havens where the hard currencies are much more important than the small animals, the birds, insects, plants, or fish of the lagoon. Atolls are being used for nuclear tests, destruction of the most dangerous chemicals on Earth, storage of highly radioactive waste products, military bases, and airports. This atoll has been protected by its owner. Probably it could be developed into something even more beautiful, something where people from this part of the world would unite with their nature to a higher degree. But Mr. Brando deserves credit for what he has done, or maybe rather for what he has not done to this island. The important thing about this place now is to keep it as a place where nature is respected, cared for, and developed. I would like to get back here in some years and see what happens. For now, I have to go back to the pulsing life in Tahiti. We take off in the small plane, hardly flying before the airstrip ends, and the lagoon, the reef, and the islands disappear under me. This visit to Tetiaroa was not long. Maybe one day it will be possible to be here longer, who knows? I really hope you enjoyed the trip as I did. We'll see you next week on Polo again. Bye for now.
Terminemos con la muerte, es la oportunidad de vencer a la violencia con las